I want to welcome Dr. Bernick from the Cleveland Clinic, who's doing tremendous research into fighter brain health and safety, whose work is critical to the health and well-being of these fine athletes and essential for the long-term viability of the sport. As an avid boxing fan and a mediocre boxer, I'm honored to be in the presence of these outstanding athletes. The sport of boxing is unique, in my view, because some of the greatest moments in sports for the world, not just the United States of America, have taken place in the squared circle. But the sport of boxing was once described by the famous sports writer Grantland Rice as the sweet science. It was also described by Damon Runyon, another great writer, as the red light district of sport. And it's been both. But I would argue that if there is one sport that requires this kind of research, which we are talking about today, it's the sport of boxing for obvious reasons. So I'm honored to welcome the country's most iconic boxers in MMA, Larry Holmes, Herschel Walker, Paulie Malignaggi, an old Irishman that we're glad to welcome, Paulie. Austin Trout and Phil Davis, as well as MMA President Scott Coker and Spike President Kevin Kay. Thank you for your continued work promoting fighter safety across the sport. I'm not going to spend a lot of time because these individuals who are much closer to the problem and much more engaged in the welfare and safety of their colleagues and friends, many of them, like me, have seen, for example, Muhammad Ali, who resides in the city of Phoenix, and I see him with frequency. And I think we all know that one could argue that it's the sport that put Muhammad in the situation that he's in today. That's a small example of this commitment that is being articulated, and 2 years ago, we began this process with the Cleveland Clinic, thanks to these individuals, for which we're very grateful. So I'm honored to be with these great Americans today, whose popularity far exceeds that of members of Congress. And so, as I mentioned, 2 years ago today, we gathered in the U.S. Capitol for an announcement that top boxing entities and MMA programs were making a financial commitment to support the brain health study underway at the Cleveland Clinic. That event demonstrated progress in the pursuit of cooperation to improve fighter safety. So I want to thank all of you who had something else to do today besides being here on behalf of those who are in the sport and those who have suffered disabilities as a result of engaging in one of the most important aspects of American life. I want to thank our sponsors and financiers, and most of all, I want to thank the Cleveland Clinic for the outstanding job that they have done, and we look forward to further work that they'll be doing on this issue. We must make sure that young men and women now who engage in these sports are not going to put their lives and their future in jeopardy. That's what this is all about, and that's why I'm so proud of the individuals who are here today. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Senator McCain. Actually, you've always been a major supporter of combat sports, and it's made our job much easier. I'm Charlie Bernick. I'm a neurologist with the Cleveland Clinic, and I direct the Professional Fighters Brain Health Study. And as Senator McCain mentioned, so I had the honor of being here 2 years ago to announce what at the time was really kind of an unprecedented occurrence in sports. That is, you had four somewhat rival organizations that actually came together to support and fund research into brain health in combat sports. And I should say, it's just not combat sports. I think what we learn about the effects of head trauma apply to the military and really across all aspects of our society. But I'm thrilled to be here today to announce the renewal, recommitment with Spike TV, who've joined the UFC, and Heyman Boxing in renewing their support for the study for another 2 years. To me, it's significant for a couple reasons. One is they don't have to. These organizations don't have to. So they don't have a players' union. They don't have litigation hanging over them. But they're doing it because they want to make the sport safer, and they want to really improve the health, the brain health of these athletes. And it only can enhance the sport by doing that. The other thing that's just more pragmatic is that to understand chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, and to understand and really know how it develops, why certain people develop it and others don't, to be able to detect it early, we can't rely just on autopsy studies. Not that they're not important, but to find out what we need to understand, you need to follow athletes when they're exposed, when they're actively fighting, and follow them over time. That time may be 8 years, 10 years, 15 years. And to do a study like that, we just can no longer depend on the government. It's a tremendous expense. And the only way we're really going to do it is by developing partnerships. And I think this is just a tremendous example, and again, very unique, I think, in the sports world, where with private and public funding, which is what we have, we're able to conduct this type of research. And I think it really should be an example for all sports, to be honest with you. I just want to mention a couple things just to give you a sense of really what can come out of a study like ours. And we're going into the 5th year, so we've had 4 years of enrolling patients or subjects. And can we show the next slide? This just gives you some sense of where we are. We have about a little over 650 fighters, fighters and controls, that is, people who aren't exposed to head trauma, in the study now. And it's quite diverse. So we have MMA fighters, we have boxers, we have women, which has, again, been an understudied group in combat sports in general. And they actually have a fair amount of experience. So we have fighters from Bellator, from the UFC, to fighters that are just starting out. A number of things have come out of this study, even in this 4 years, that I think are important. I'm just going to share 2 things that kind of, I think, are interesting. So one is that, we could change it. We've been able, just using MRI techniques, typical MRI techniques with a little kind of couple things added, value added, and we've been able to find that there are certain areas of the brain that are vulnerable, seem vulnerable to injury, and that you can track over time. And I'll show you the next, if we go to the next slide, this depiction shows two of our subjects in the study. So the top one is a fighter who's, on all their testing, is unimpaired. They're doing fine cognitively. And, oh, can you go back and we'll run it again? And if you take a look at the red part in the back, that's just a bundle of fibers in the brain that we can image. And you can see as we start, as the fighter progresses from 1 year to 2 years down the line, we have to, I guess, hit the bottom. Or maybe it's not going to go. What actually happens, or maybe you saw, is that the fighter, the unimpaired fighter, really didn't change. His scan looked exactly the same over that 3-year period. On the other hand, the fighter that really was impaired, that was having problems with their reaction time and stuff like that, you could actually see loss of fibers in the brain. And if you look at the bottom, you can see the fibers almost disappearing, whereas the other ones that are intact. So we now have tools, and maybe not ready for prime time yet, but that at least give the promise that we can actually detect changes in the brain early and understand really what's going on. We go maybe to the next slide. The other thing that I think is really, in some sense, groundbreaking, if I could use the word, is that in the study we've been using an iPad-based device that looks at really brain function. So it can measure processing speed and mental functioning and balance and visual acuity. And this measure can actually track brain function, again, over time. And from our findings, the Nevada Athletic Commission has now instituted that this testing is going to be required for all fighters every time they fight, or on a yearly basis. And this, again, is the first time, to my knowledge, in sports where there's an organization or a regulatory body is actually tracking brain function over time. So we're not talking about return to play, concussion protocols. This is actually being able to inform the athlete and the regulatory agencies really how somebody is performing in terms of their brain function over time. And the hope is if we show it's feasible, that other commissions will accept this. And then if we have this throughout the country, you would actually have a registry where we can track fighters throughout their course, and which would be a huge advance in protecting fighters' brain safety. So I just want to kind of finish up. This just shows the iPad. I won't go through it, but it's basically something that's easily obtainable anywhere. You can load the app anywhere. You can do this. It can be transmitted to a central source. So there's a lot of value to it. In the next slide, this just shows that I won't go into this too much, but basically that in general, the more exposure a fighter has to fights and training, the more likely they're going to be impaired on the testing. And this next one's kind of interesting. Again, it shows two individuals, well, one's a control who's obviously not exposed to head trauma. The other is a fighter. In the first, on the left, is kind of how their balance is. And this measures sway, so the little lines are they have to stand with one foot, eyes closed, and how much sway they have. You can see that the fighter on the bottom, so the control doesn't change much over that year. His balance is about the same. But you can see a fighter who's had exposure over that year, training, fights, and actually also had change on their MRI scan, has tremendously more difficulty with their balance that you can measure. So you can actually track these things over time. And I think we're moving into a time where there's really exciting new techniques, PET imaging, which can actually image this protein that's involved in CTE, tau. So we're looking at that. Again, we have to follow people over time to see if that becomes useful. And next slide. And I think that I want to point out for us, this would not be possible. It just would not be possible to do this without the support of organizations such as Spike TV, the UFC, Heyman Boxing, Top Rank, because this is a long-term study, and to get the answers, we need to be able to continue this over time. So I'm going to stop here, and actually, I think next, let Mr. Holmes come up and tell us some of his experiences. Yeah.
Thank you. How all y'all doing today? I want you to know that I had 75 professional fights, 69 wins, with 44 knockouts. My intention was not to hurt anybody. But since you're in the game of boxing, I guess that's what you got to do if you want to go to another level. And I'm not saying that I never got hit in the days that I claimed in the ring. But I think when most fighters start having problems is when they do get hit, and they get hit a lot, and they get hit often. And that happens in the gym, not into a regular fight. Sometimes if you go through a fight, a professional fight, you might be able to get hit. You might get hit 20 times on the arms and the shoulders overall. But in the gym, you might get hit 100 times. But because you are more opening yourself to get hit so that you can try to duck that punch so that you don't get hit when the real thing comes down to it. But in the gym, you have these big head guards on. The head guards protect you to a certain extent. You have a big mouthpiece in that protects your mouth. And your body, as far as your exercises, should build you up so that you'll be able to take the body punches that you'll probably receive in the gym in your workouts. When I was working in the gym, I had fun in the gym. I made it a game. I played with the guys. I didn't want to get hit, and I wanted to duck. Just like Muhammad Ali did back in the day. He ducked punches. You couldn't hit him. He talking about he's pretty. You can't hit me. You can't catch me. You can't hit what you can't see. Ali did all of that. And fighters adapted that so they didn't get hit. But until the later days, Ali started getting hit. And then he started making excuses while he get hit because he wants to build his body. You can't build a brain. But nobody can tell him nothing at that time because he was Muhammad Ali. If you talk too much, you're not going to have a job because he's the man that's going to be calling the shots. But in the long run, all that takes a toll. I know that. Sometimes my wife thinks I'm a little bit shaky because I get a little scary. But she knows, and like a lot of everybody else knows, that I'm okay. I knock on wood that the things that happen to a lot of fighters did not happen to me. Because I didn't try to prove myself. I didn't try to prove how great I was, or how hard a punch I could take. My thing was to hit and don't get hit, but not hurt the other guy while he was trying to do his thing. Today, fighters, they want the reputation. They look for it. They want to go out there and take your head off. Same thing in the football game, Herschel. They want to tackle you and break your leg and put you out of the game so they can score a good touchdown or something or catch a pass and keep you from doing it. And the thing is, it's a competitive game that we have. The competition is great because everybody wanted to be them, about them. And when they come down to the newspapers, the media, they want y'all to write about them. They don't care about the other guy. Write about me so you can know how good I were and how good I'm doing. And when you get good trainers teaching you how to fight, I don't hardly see any anymore. The guys that I trained was Eddie Futch, Ray Arcel, Freddie Brown, and Richard Giacchetti. I thought I had the greatest team in the world because they had knowledge. Those guys had worked with Marcianos and the Joe Lewises and stuff, and I get it from what the experiences that they given me, because, and I'm taking their experience because they got it from working around with the guys like Joe Louis and Rocky Marciano and all them guys. So I learned what they was telling me, taught me. And I don't see it today because when young people come out of school to go into the gym, they think they could be trainers. They think they could be managers. The other night I was watching on TV, a fight was on TV the other day, and the guy came back to the corner. First thing the coach said to him, if anybody can guess what he said, I'll give you $5, except for my wife. He says, how you feel? How the hell you think I feel? You punched me in my face, man, out there. I mean, put some ice on my face, rubbing me down. They don't even pour water on you anymore. They don't know nothing about pouring water on you to cooling you off. They don't tell you to swallow your water so you can not enough water so you can keep it on going so you don't dehydrate yourself. And see, a lot of those fighters that hurt themselves, that's what happens. When a fighter goes into a coma or anything like that and don't come out of it, that's because he probably got dehydrated. Because the trainer says, don't drink that water, it'll cramp you up. Well, you need to get cramped up every 3 rounds. You should swallow that water. If you don't swallow that water, you know what happens when you're thirsty and you're sweating, you're throwing punches out there all day. You're gonna lose a lot of water. I lost anywhere from 3 to 4 pounds every time I worked out. I mean, it don't look like I've been working out now, but you know, in my good days, I was pretty nice, you know. That's why my wife liked me. I had a nice body. But boxing is great. Been good for me. Been good for my family. And it's good for a lot of fighters' families and for a lot of fighters. Even though we talk up some negative things about what happened to this fighter, what happened to that fighter, we can say a lot of good things about fighters that those things did not happen to. It don't happen to everybody. It happens to you when you don't discipline yourself, you go crazy. Mike Tyson. Let's take Mike Tyson. Everybody think he was great. Oh, Mike Tyson. Oh, man, he's great. He's knocking everybody out. But what happens when you get somebody to fight him back? Not afraid. And he get tired. And he don't feel like getting up after he get knocked down on the floor. How great is he then? A great fighter get up. When Ernie Shavers hit me, when I went to throw a right hand, a right uppercut, when Ernie Shavers, I went to throw that, I had it, finna throw that right uppercut, and I went like this and hit me right on my chin. Knocked me down. I said, oh, shit. And Ernie Shavers was one of the hardest punchers in the world. He hit me. And I seen going around and at the wall. I never experienced that. I don't know if y'all ever got hit like that. Probably not. But the noise go around in your head. But I was able to lift myself up and get back to the corner and let them pour water on me. I had to tell them, put water on my head. Cool me down, please. Put the water on. Give me the water. I need to drink it. A fighter, a trainer that don't know about putting the water on your head and letting you swallow some of that water instead of putting the smelling salts in your nose so you can't breathe. You ever get tired and your man got some smelling salt and you're already tired and you can't breathe, and he puts some smelling salts in your nose, you can't breathe again. You still can't breathe. You're killing them. And that happens. That happens to me because the guy that I had that I was giving a shot to be able to work with me in the corner didn't know what he was doing. He put some smelling stuff on my nose. I had to slap his hand, get it out. Get out of here with that. Get that. I can't break it out of here, you know. He's going to kill me. He's working for the other guy, I guess. But boxing is a great game. You got to be managed a little bit better. Kids got to take it seriously, learn it, so they'll be able to teach it to the young people. And most important, learn how to throw punches. They got to learn how to throw a jab. I'm telling you, that's what I did. I jabbed 40, 50 punches around. I threw it on jabs all day long. Are you hungry? Did you eat yet? Whop, whop. That jab worked. And then I threw the right hand. When that time to throw the right hand, it was time for me to go home. Pack the bags, baby. We're going. Fight's over. I'm knocking them out. And they got to learn how to do that. And they got to learn how to be taught that. And that's what's wrong with boxing because, listen, I was with Joe Louis and all them guys and Sugar Ray Leonard, Sugar Ray Robinson. I was with all them guys. I'm learning from them. And it was a great experience. And I would like to see young people learn. I say this, and then I'm going. I had a gym for like 15 years, teaching boxers how to fight and how to discipline themselves. When they stop wanting to learn, that's when I quit. But I'm not going to waste my time teaching you something that you want to learn, but you don't really want to learn. Thank you all very much.
First of all, I want to say that this is a blessing. It is a blessing because I want to thank Senator McCain and the Cleveland Clinic and also Spike and Scott Coker because this has been a long time coming. And now to say that we can have preventative because, in my former field, I found out that they ain't going to know about it until you're dead. And that's not a time I'm ready to happen right now. So I want to thank them because now they're giving an athlete an opportunity to be healthy and also to know what's going on. So I want to thank all of you for coming out because bringing awareness to this is the most important thing. So Senator McCain, thank you. Doc, thank you. Scott and Spike TV, because without people like this, we can never be as far as we're going to get. So I want to thank all of them because this is a winning team right here. Thank you guys for coming.
Good morning, or good afternoon, I believe. I just want to say big thank you to everybody up here for being involved. And, we have some interesting pastimes as Americans. You don't have to go very far to realize if you turn on the internet or Instagram, there's somebody who's probably having a worse day than you are. There's somebody riding a wheelie or skateboarding down a hand railing that's not going to make it to the bottom. And we enjoy this. This is our entertainment. And it's important to understand that we don't have to give these things up, and that concussions, they do happen. And we've already arrived at a place where we can enjoy these. But what gives us our humanity is how we proactively take care of all the participants, both professional and amateur. And so thank you, Kevin Kay, Scott Coker, Dr. Burnick, Senator McCain, for helping us to raise awareness to the effects of concussion and CTE. There's a saying in boxing that, you can kick me if I'm wrong, Mr. Holmes, that it's the punch that you don't see that knocks you out. And for too long, the punch that a lot of people did not see or did not investigate was the effects of concussions and CTE. And we lost a lot of greats amongst a lot of sports because of that. And so on the other side of that, I just want to say big thank you to all of you guys for being here, to the Cleveland Clinic, Dr. Burnick, and Senator McCain again. So thank you all.
How you guys doing today? First of all, I want to thank the gathered attendance here, especially Senator McCain, guys from the Cleveland Clinic. I want to thank Premier Boxing Champions for also brought me out here. I've been involved in boxing for more than half my life. I'm 35 years old. I got involved in boxing about 19 years ago and 15 years as a professional boxer. So I've seen the highs and lows, and I've seen damage that I've sustained as well as damage that I've seen others sustain, my peers, friends, even just acquaintances and whatnot. I've seen guys in the gym that I've trained with have passed away. You see them on Friday or Thursday, and they had a fight over the weekend, and by the next Monday, you find out they're in a coma, and guys pass away and stuff like that. So it's all the more important to have these kind of studies, because a lot of times these kind of situations where you've had guys damaged, they didn't get damaged just on the night of that fight. They got damaged. They came in with some pre-existing damage that maybe wasn't noted or wasn't taken care of, or somebody didn't do their police work and stop that guy from fighting or taking that fight or whatnot. So I think the importance of what the Cleveland Clinic is doing as far as monitoring the damage we sustain through the years, monitoring the amount of punches and monitoring our brains in general, and just seeing how qualified we are to continue to fight, or if we're not qualified anymore to fight, This is the kind of thing that happens in this kind of sport. That kind of damage, it wears on you through the years, And as a lot of the fighters know and a lot of the athletes know, it wears on you. A lot of times it catches up to you later on. Muhammad Ali was fine when he retired, as far as the way he looked and the way he was, his motor skills and whatnot. But, years later, we see that, the effects of boxing, the effects of the damage, the shots that he took, they play a part. So, these are things that I worry about myself. I have a life even outside of boxing. I've got a job as a broadcaster, so I've got to think on my feet in the ring and have my reflexes working. But I also need to be sharp, be cognizant outside the ring for my broadcast work and in my ability to speak and break down the action for the people. And being a broadcaster has also given me the opportunity to see firsthand a lot closer, not just from where I've been inside the ring, but also from a very close ringside seat. And I've seen the effects of fighters, through years of not being the same anymore, or fighters who have slowed down, or guys who, when they speak, I see the difference, So it's much appreciated from the Cleveland Clinic and everybody who's throwing their financial support into this, Spike TV, Premier Boxing Champions, the UFC, Bellator, Scott Coker with Bellator and whatnot, really appreciated, because sometimes as a fighter, the loneliest place in the world is the ring or the cage or whatnot. You're in there by yourself. You can have 20,000 people screaming, and you can still feel like the loneliest person because none of those people can do anything to help you. You're about to go get your head bashed in. Even if you win or lose, you're still getting your head bashed in. It's a fight. You're not going to get in the shower without getting wet. So it's it makes me personally really very grateful that people actually think about this stuff because there's so many things going on and people get caught up thinking of so much other stuff that even in sports in general that a lot of times the fighters are the people that are forgotten the most, And I think this is going to be something really big for combat sports and for all sports in general. The ability to monitor the damage we take so that guys don't become their own worst enemy. They can get out of their own way and maybe not take that fight that might have given them that more damage or made them sustain more damage or even worse, made them pass away and whatnot. This is a way to control it. This is a way to monitor it. But you want to prevent it even more? We talk about financial support. You start random drug testing in boxing, random doping testing in boxing all year round, random doping testing in all combat sports all year round, and you control it even more. But the combination of those things will make our sports a lot safer. Thanks, guys. Now, let me bring up Austin Trout, former junior middleweight champion.
Well, that's a hard act to follow. I'm going to be that guy that brings his notes up. I am very passionate about what the Cleveland Clinic is doing. This is very groundbreaking for the boxing world. I want to thank you all for being here. It's a pleasure to be here as a representative of the premier boxing champion. And thank you guys for attending and for the support of this important work that the Cleveland Clinic is doing. Here's my cheap plug. I will be fighting May 21st for a very important fight. It's a title match in Las Vegas. With that said, for me to be at my best, I believe wholeheartedly that I need to be, of course, physically, spiritually, and most importantly, mentally in shape for a fight. I can't be at my best if my mind is not in it. It doesn't matter how good a shape you're in. If your mind is not on the game, if your game plan is not perfected in here, your body won't react. You can sit there and say I could bench press 300 pounds, but if your mind won't tell your body to throw the right punch, it's not going to happen. You've already lost. So, a lot of people say in boxing, and the numbers change depending on who you're talking to, that boxing is 75% mental and 25% physical. And I believe that wholeheartedly. I try to do things to keep my brain right, read, math problems, whatever it might be, because you have to work out that aspect as well. So the things that the Cleveland Clinic is doing really speaks to me because they're going to let me know if I'm slowing down. They're going to let me know if I'm staying the same. And they will actually let me know if I need to internally step away at the right time. A lot of times I know the risk I'm taking when I get into that ring. We all do. We know that one punch can end it all, and it can end it all for life. We put our lives literally on the line when we step into that ring or cage. But what we don't really know is what about afterwards? When you get through the hard fight, your hand is raised, you're feeling great, you even feel great years after, but what kind of damage did you take in that firefight that you went through? That's the kind of things that we didn't know, and I never even really thought about until I got to go to the Cleveland Clinic and did some of those tests that worked on, my motor skills, my speech, memory, things like that. The whole balance thing that the doctor was talking about with the swing, I never even understood that I had such a balance problem, or I was great at balance until I took that test. I passed, by the way. I was above average all over. So if I become average, then I know that there's something going on. This is why I'm in full support of the work that Cleveland Clinic does, because the research for the brain health for boxers is going to help prevent. And not just like we've found out in some other sports that after you're dead, oh, there was a problem. The WWE, which I've watched all my life. It was WWF when I started watching it. But there's been a lot of guys that after they retire, along with addictions, but the concussions that they took night after night after night, not really made them seem all different, but it changed the way that they even thought. And it's why suicide was kind of rampant with the retired WWE. NFL players the same. We're now figuring out that the concussions they take are making a lasting effect where these guys aren't making it after retirement. And that's scary to me because, to leave the game, to be retired and thinking that you can enjoy your retirement, and you can't because you're not right upstairs. So their work is so important for the long-term health and the continued success. And I just want to thank Senator McCain for being a head supporter of this. Thank you, Doctor, for this. I would thank the Cleveland Clinic. I want to thank PBC, Premier Boxing Champion, Spike, for getting behind this. And again, I plan on being a champion for a long time. And with the studies that's going on, not only will they help me ensure that, but they'll also help me to be the champion for the right amount of time, where I could bow gracefully and be able to enjoy my kids and grandkids and tell them the stories, because can't nobody tell them my story better than me. So thank you all again for coming out.
Yeah, hi, my name is Scott Coker. I'm president of Bellator. And people ask me all the time, why do you do what you do? And my answer to everyone is because I believe in what martial arts teaches. And yes, there is a sports combat element to it, but the life skills that martial arts teaches, perseverance, indomitable spirit, respect, character development, these are the life skills that go way beyond kicking and punching and that can last a lifetime. I've been in the martial arts combat business for 30 years, and it's more than a job. It's really become who I am. And for 30 years, I've had the pleasure of working with some amazing athletes, including Herschel, who fought for us a couple years back. And you have some of the finest athletes in the world, All-Americans, Olympians, NFL football stars. And, when people ask you, are you in the fighter business? I say, no, you know what? I am in the people business. These people have become very close to me. We treat our fighters like family, and that's the business that we're in. In Bellator in May, we were fortunate to have not only some of the greatest fighters, but the greatest TV partners, such as Spike TV, Mr. Kevin Kay. We have a great team of people to expose these athletes. And, business is good. But once again, in the back of your mind, when I started promoting 30 years ago, I did not go into the business, like Larry said, I did not go into the business to have two people compete to get injured. Really, it was almost naive to me that, these martial arts competitors are going to compete and then, somebody might get hurt. And so throughout the years, there have been developments in the state where they had different types of testing, and now the testing at the state level is extremely high. You have to have EKGs, MRIs, all the CAT scans, but this is taking it to a whole nother level. And so I'm so happy that, that this type of technology is available because our fighters deserve it. Martial arts has been a lifelong journey, and when I think about the things in the past, whether I was promoting, whether I was teaching, it's been like a 30-year journey for me to get to this point. And the one thing that it taught me was that these guys in the school, in the gym, some of these guys start like the jiu-jitsu students, like Royce Gracie. They start in the school. They learn that to have this drive, this competitive drive. They learn to never quit. They learn to have indomitable spirit. And really, it's up to us. It's our duty to make sure that we help them protect themselves, because they will continue and continue and continue. And just like, a great athlete, sometimes they go too far. And I really feel like with this, the Cleveland Clinic study and Dr. Bernick, and with the backing of Senator McCain, that this will do a lot for our athletes. And, like I said, at the end of the day, we want to see everybody, health and safety is #1 priority. It's an honor to be here. On behalf of the Bellator family, I'd like to applaud Dr. Bernick and the Cleveland Clinic, Lou Ruvo Center. If there's anything that you guys need, please let us know, because we are here 24/7, and we look forward to sending some of our fighters to get this testing done right away. To Senator McCain, for all your continued support. It's great to know that truly one of our country's heroes is behind us, backing up this initiative. And, the next gentleman I'd like to introduce really was the pivot point in the history of MMA of really saving the sport. And he gave the sport a shot, because at this point, mixed martial arts was still not really accepted. And when I looked at it, I looked from a martial arts perspective. Because you can do arm bars, you can do different types of moves, choking. You can do all that in the Olympics. But when you put it in a circle with a cage fence, people were a little bit taken back by it. And nobody would touch it at that time. And it was really this gentleman that gave it the break that it needed to take it mainstream and to get to where it is today. And that's Mr. Kevin Kay from Spike TV. President of Spike TV. Sorry.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you all for being here today. Really happy to be in Washington, D.C. And by the way, I'm not sure there's a more exciting cage fight going on right now than Trump, Hillary, Bernie, and Cruz. In mixed martial arts, we have strict rules to protect our athletes. There's no eye gouging, there's no headbutting, and there's no kicks to the groin. If only we could apply those same rules to this year's presidential race, huh? We'd all be good. Fighters first. It's the mantra that encompasses everything that we believe in Spike Sports. We live it, we breathe it every day, because we believe that the fighters are the stars, and they should be treated as such. Fighters first isn't just about what happens inside the ring. It's about celebrating and saluting fighters outside of it as well. Whether it's Spike creating a campaign called Fight for Flint to support the Durrell brothers and their quest to help the people of their hometown, Flint, Michigan, during the water crisis, or giving a national platform to Bellator's Justin Wren and his tireless work creating wells for the people of Congo. If it's important to our fighters, it's important to us. And what's more important, frankly, than fighters' health and safety? I'm honored to be here today representing Spike and Viacom to salute and support the incredible work being done at the Cleveland Clinic. For me personally, it's extra special because first and foremost, I've been a combat sports fan all my life. As a kid, I idolized guys like Joe Frazier, Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, Larry Holmes, my all-time favorite, Muhammad Ali. In fact, Ali came to the theater at Madison Square Garden to support Spike at our very first advertiser upfront 12 years ago. And he said 3 words that kind of started this network and kind of kicked it off, and I'll never forget, which was, "I like Spike." And just as I worshiped Ali, there was a kid like me in Easton, Pennsylvania, idolizing the great Larry Holmes, or a kid in Athens, Georgia, with a Herschel Walker poster on his wall, or the neophyte boxer in Brooklyn dreaming to be the next Paulie Malignaggi. Or right here in Washington, D.C., wanting to be the next Austin Trout. And the college wrestler at Penn State that wants to follow in the footsteps of proud Nittany Lion alum and former national champion Phil Davis. Phil's a great example of combat sports athletes in 2016. He was a kinesiology major at Penn State. I'm the head of a network. I can barely say that. He's an avid reader and a tech geek. When he's done fighting, he's in a position to have a long and prosperous career outside the ring. He deserves that opportunity. We owe it to him. We owe that to all of our fighters. We have to do everything we can outside the ring to keep the fighters safe. The incredible work and the important research from the Cleveland Clinic will go a long way in achieving that. We're blessed with showcasing many of the greatest athletes in the world who, after months and months of grueling training, time and time again, put everything on the line with the ultimate goal of becoming a world champion. As the network and promoters, we have a responsibility for their well-being. It's a priority for us at Spike and my incredible partners Scott Coker and Bellator and Heyman Boxing and the PBC. That's the spirit of Fighters First, and that's why we're here today. Thank you, Dr. Bernick and the Cleveland Clinic, for all that you do, and to Senator McCain, a true American hero and a dedicated public servant, for your continued support. Thank you, everybody.
Evander had it.
Yeah, it was awkward, very awkward.
You and he, I think, had about the best.
They don't do that no more.
I had to scoot on in. Phil, you got to scoot on in. Are they want somebody to come on this side?
Yeah.
You want to come on this side?
Yeah, come over on this. Okay, Paulie, you do a great job, by the way.
Big fan of your work. All right. I'm still waiting for you to come down to me. We'll check the time. Just waiting? Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Okay. This way.
Gentlemen, can you get closer? They're not getting close to it. They're gonna be mad. I know it. something else.
Okay? All right? You know, who else is as good as Klitschko?
Ready? 1, 2, 3. No, still see the guy in the center.